Analyzing the different personal values of business and communication students is a key research because they will be the future leaders of companies and organizations. The personal values of these students will influence their behavior and decisions. In addition, they will determine the direction of institutions, companies, and business organizations. It is therefore necessary to learn more about their values. In addition, as more schools and companies recruit and admit a greater number of students from the countries analyzed in this study, it is very useful to understand how the values of young people differ among different nationalities. This research examines, in particular, the personal values and value systems of business and communication students in Spain and compares the results with those obtained in Portugal, Brazil, Northern Macedonia, and India through the methodology and value survey of Roquiche and the typology of Muser and Orp. In the present study, the contents and values are also explored in the news programs of the television channels 24 Hours in Spain, CNN in India, and Al Jazeera in Thailand, for the diagnosis of our audiovisual ethics culture and its hypothetical decline. The conclusions obtained require us to propose the EduCARE educational model as one of the possible corrective measures to improve, with this program of contents in human values, the hypothetical non-positive audiovisual media effects. In the development of this thesis, we have verified, therefore, the perception that the interviewed viewers have of the co-responsibility of the television contents for the deterioration of social behaviors. The execution of our study has also allowed us to verify a few differences in the diffusion of values by the chosen television channels. For the elaboration and interpretation of the conclusions, we have analyzed a plurigeographic and multicultural sample of students selected by gender, age, and origin. Although there are few differences between the three news formats, as well as between the Spanish, Portuguese, and Macedonian respondents by gender, our findings show less agreement in the scale of values of the students of India and Brazil, as well as divergences in their value systems. The data provide an excellent sample of indicators for the subsequent debate on communication and business education. On the one hand, the results of the discussion groups are comparative and qualitative. On the other hand, the results have been obtained by quantitative analysis of the television contents, interviews with experts, and surveys of university students of the aforementioned group of countries. In turn, we have verified the data in rural and urban areas with the help of the general linear model, the Spearman rank correlation, the classification by means of the average chi method, the chi-square test, and the application of the test of studentized ranges of student Newman Kuehls, Tukey, and Duncan. Conclusions. Hypothesis contrast. The results we have obtained in this research have provided relevant information regarding the hypotheses. At this point, we conclude our research work. We are satisfied, after critically analyzing this work, that this research we have carried out during the last 5 years has been worthwhile and has given birth to interesting results. The possibility of contrasting our working hypotheses in different scenarios and cultures has allowed us, despite some difficulties, to have a global vision in the approach, plus an international coverage in the selection of the samples to study for the verification of the hypotheses formulated. With our findings, we have seen that the concern about the spread and impact of human values in the media, or the lack of values, especially on television, is a worrisome debate in all the countries where we conducted our surveys, discussion groups, focus groups, and content analysis. After many years of professional experience being responsible for program management and also being a content creator in television, a seed was planted to carry out this study, and we have been inspired through our own personal motivation to discover the current state of this issue. The research questions that we asked and received convincing answers to during these times of increasingly abundant social demands multiply when we observe the extent to which this generalized tendency is imposed on model changes. Questions that are accentuated even more if we consider what viewers desiring content and values ask for in their search for solutions. The wide scope of this research obviously involves the ICT, information and communication technologies. This dilemma concerns us as interested party stakeholders and consumers of ICT, information and communication technologies, mobile phones, tablets, video games, social networking platforms, instant messaging, etc. But that is not the objective of this study. Technologies have already shifted from the earlier leadership of the hitherto unbeatable audiovisual medium par excellence, the television, to the unstoppable power of these new technologies. To, quote, not admit as a true thing, as I did not know with evidence that it is, unquote, Descartes, 1837, is why we have come here and decided to share our research contributions regarding today's most influential media in order to explore its new challenges. Our investigation was born with the objective of validating the possible discrediting of the ethical codes or human values in the behavior of the respondents in contrast to their behavior practices of materialistic satisfaction. This is confirmed by data that prove this trend in university students from 5 countries with their different cultures, both from the East and the West. An obvious limitation of the sample that we have analyzed is that it does not have to be extrapolated, given that it is limited to a small universe. Hence, the results can only be inferred from these groups of young students interpolated. Consequently, both the methods and the criteria for obtaining our data can be optimized in order to be better complemented, thus overcoming our shortcomings. Due to the limited resources available to us, we cannot aspire to compete with institutions constituted by a vast international scientific team of 40 countries, core scientific team, as, for example, the one that has the European Social Survey ESS, which takes place every 2 years in that continent, the last of whose surveys on human values, available to all, was held in 2016. However, we believe we have contributed with the present work the following conclusions that we consider important for the subsequent debate.
Tell me your name and what are you going to answer?
Number 1, the young people surveyed, although they state that education in values plays an important role in their lives, do not attach importance to values in their responses to questions that consider the impact of possible negative effects of television programming. Nor do they raise the demand that, quote, we expected a change of model, unquote. On the contrary, they consider that TV has changed their behavior and character in a positive way. Number 2, this criterion, however, has not been shared by the 18 international university professors and media experts consulted, who agree to a high percentage, 88.8%, and say that political economic interests interfere with the dissemination and practice of human values. Number 3, in addition, the social demand that we have been able to interpret in this group of experts has to be taken into account, since 91.9% think that education in values is very important, as well as 88.7% who consider the contents of the media as, quote, very improvable, unquote, and having the ability to correct the ethical and social behavior of the viewers. Number 4, the data relationship of both groups, that of youth and adults, has allowed us to establish a connection and dialogue regarding their perceptions, which we have been able to deepen even more with a third group of teachers and followers of the EduCARE educational model, the model we propose to implement in the media due to its guidelines on values. Number 5, this last EduCARE educational sector consulted has allowed us to draw conclusions with their opinions, which were defended by a high number of those interviewed, 61.3%, from 7 countries who are not members of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. They referred to the fact that the practice of human values is better in their countries than in those of the Western environment. We propose to verify that in future studies and to evaluate whether or not it is a, quote, third-person effect, unquote. Number 6, to be precise, these are the students surveyed in 2 of those countries, India and Brazil, who are not members of the OECD, who declare themselves more, quote, believers and, quote, pragmatists, compared to the students consulted in the European universities of Spain and Portugal, members of OECD. This EU group of students stand out, reflecting the other 3 profiles detected in the population analyzed: pacifist, idealist, and reflective. All of these conclusions we propose for future research. In addition, there is an elucidating conclusion in the study verified in situ with the analysis of content and values of the news of 3 television channels: Al Jazeera Thailand, CNN India, and 24 Hours channel TVE in Spain. These television channels, representing the populations from these countries, have three distinctly different cultural traditions linked to some of the most widespread creeds on the planet: Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity. From the results obtained, we extract here the most significant conclusions about the presence of news with human values in their news programs. Number 1. In general, the percentage of this type of news on values is very low. It does not reach 25% in each of the three channels, and only reaches 11% of relevance, salience, in cases where this news has been included in the opening or in the headlines of the information programs. Number 2. The approach or treatment of, quote, substantive frame, unquote, which we have found in the news about human values, leads us to rethink the professional role of the informants. We refer to the convenience or not of transmitting a, quote, moral judgment, unquote, which is one of the basic functions in the coverage of events, topics, and actors, which includes the framing theory of content analysis. In our survey, we have detected, quote, moral judgment, unquote, in 16% of the news with contents in values. Therefore, with regard to the effects that the information frames, or framing, of the news generate on the public, it is suggested to deepen this study in future research, investigating the impact or influence that these type of frames produce in the behavior of the viewers. Therefore, we propose new opinion studies that analyze the effects of this type of message on the behavior of citizens. General conclusions. With this research, we confirm that while health is the value of lowest dispersion or descent of opinions, and in turn the most appreciated, there is a tendency for the progressive decrease of spiritual values in the young university population. In this work, we wanted to review the conclusions verified in previous surveys conducted in this line of research from 1967 to 2015. In the results of the previous explorations, it can already be verified that in values such as spirituality or salvation, there is a marked tendency of disinterest in social preferences, which displace them in decreasing order to the last positions on the scale of 18 priorities, the 16th place for spiritualism and the 17th for salvation. In the analysis of our recent data from 2016 to 2018, we have verified that the salvation value now drops to the last position, number 18. The scale used for our classification of values in order of importance from 1 to 18 is the Rokish Value Survey Model, which is the same one used in previous studies. Regarding the value of salvation, we can verify one of our most conclusive confirmations, as it is on the scale of 18 as values of young people. When evaluating it, this is the value that shows the maximum consensus in terms of a lack of appreciation among the majority of respondents. 44.9% of the population agrees to assign the 18th place to this value's ranking, which is the most unanimous vote obtained in our findings and the lowest position assigned by the largest volume of people. If we stop at the analysis of the terms of the pronouncement of the European research line, quote, inclusive societies, The EduCARE program proposes a transparent approach to achieve this objective. EduCARE model topples this rivalry of creeds and installs the concept of, quote, unity in diversity, an ethical code of basic human values with its implementation techniques, which are common to all cultures and all religions: truth, right action, peace, love, and nonviolence.
Don't wanna wait in line. I've been here 1,000 times. It's all a big hustle and a serious crime. You're coming out to me and hope I come quietly. Already